Have you ever loved someone only to find out it was all a lie? Abigail Carter, a busker with a passionate voice wandering the streets of Nashville, dreaming of one day shining Henry Whitmore. A cold billionaire who doesn't believe in love and thinks everything can be bought, including her dreams. A brutal bet. I can make anyone a star. Henry chooses Abigail, but the truth cannot be hidden forever. And when Abigail discovers it was all a gamble, her heart is broken. But fate did not let them go easily. When Abigail stepped onto the stage on the biggest night of her life, she thought she had it all. But amid the sea of excited crowds, a familiar gaze followed her, the eyes of a man who lost her once and doesn't want to lose her again. Can a song from the past rewrite their story? Nashville is the city of musical dreams. The streets are filled with guitars and soulful voices that echo from small bars and street corners, where unknown artists are chasing their dreams of making their voices heard. But the dream is not for everyone. There are hundreds, even thousands of buskers in this place every day, but only a few can truly reach success. Henry Whitmore is not the type to believe in unrealistic dreams. At 32, he is the CEO of a large technology corporation with a fortune of billions of dollars. Born into a powerful family, Henry learned one thing: money can buy anything, from power, status, to people. He doesn't believe in love, nor does he believe in fairy tales about unknown people becoming stars. Dinner at the Grand Royale Hotel, a luxurious hotel that Henry owns, is where Nashville's elite gather. Expensive champagne, sparkling designer dresses, and pretentious conversations. Henry sits in the VIP area with his wealthy friends, people with too much money and too little emotion. You know, Brandon Hale, a real estate entrepreneur, said wryly, "The music business is such a myth. There are so many nobodies out there who think talent is enough. But the reality is, no one gets famous without someone backing them up." Henry took a sip of wine and smiled faintly. That's right. The so-called natural talent is just a sweet lie. In the end, everything revolves around money and connections. Then why don't you prove it? Challenged Lucas Grant, an investment tycoon. Let's bet. Can you turn anyone into a star in 6 months? Without a moment's hesitation, Henry nodded. Of course, pick anyone. I'll make them a phenomenon. No need to pick, Brandon said, pointing out the hotel's large glass doors where the crowded street still bustled at night. Pick one of those street singers out there. If you can really turn a busker into a star, I'll admit you're right. A silly bet, but Henry enjoyed the idea, not because he had anything to prove, but simply because he wanted a game to pass the time. Henry walked out of the hotel, his eyes scanning the street performers lining the sidewalk. Some played guitars, others sang in small groups. But then, he stopped in front of a girl, Abigail Carter. She stood alone on the street corner, an old guitar in her hand, her deep voice echoing in the noisy space. She was not like other street artists trying to attract attention. No noise, no tricks, just a pure, emotional voice. Henry stood there, observing her for a long time. There was something strangely attractive about her, not just her voice, but also her eyes that carried untold pain. When the song ended, Abigail bowed her head to thank the coins that passers-by threw into the small box. She didn't look up, but Henry walked over, pulled out a $100 bill, and placed it in the box. "I don't need that much money," she said without looking at him. Henry raised his eyebrows slightly. It was rare for anyone to refuse his money. "So what do you need?" Abigail looked up now, her deep blue eyes wary. "I need a chance, but rich guys like you never give anyone a real chance." Her words made Henry laugh. Little did she know that he was the opportunity she had just mentioned. "I can help you," Henry said, his eyes shining with a challenge. Abigail crossed her arms over her chest and smiled faintly. "You're helping me? Why? I don't know you." "Because I see potential in you," Henry lied. The truth was, he just wanted to win the bet. Abigail looked at him for a moment, still not believing him. "Are you kidding me?" "Number, I'm serious. If you agree, I can help you get a real chance. A record deal, big shows, a path to success." She was silent, obviously thinking. His words were too beautiful to be true, but then her eyes became determined. If I agree, I don't want to be your puppet. I don't want anyone controlling my music. Henry smiled. This girl was not easy to convince, but that only made the game more interesting. Fine, then let me prove it. Tomorrow meet me at the Grand Royale Hotel. I'll show you how serious I am. Abigail looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. Henry turned away, but the smile remained on his lips. The game had begun. When Henry entered this bet, he had no idea that this would be the first time he bet with all his heart. He just thought he was playing a game. But in this game, it is you who is at risk of being defeated. A week after Abigail accepts Henry's proposal, her life changes in ways she never imagined. From a street singer, she suddenly had someone to care about her future. New doors opened before her eyes. But there was one thing she didn't know. All these chances are not miracles, but just part of Henry's game. But then, what Henry didn't expect was that this game started to spiral out of his control. The street singer steps into the spotlight. Henry was not stingy in using his wealth to make Abigail a star. He hired a professional team, image experts, musicians, media managers, and a famous producer to help her record her first song. Henry spared no expense in renting her a modern recording studio, taking her to lavish parties to meet top music producers. For the first time in her life, Abigail got to perform at a major musical event, Nashville's elite fundraiser. She stepped onto the stage with the lights shining down, hundreds of eyes focused on her. Her heart pounded, not because of nervousness, but because she realized she belonged here. She raised her voice and the whole room fell silent. Every melody, every word in her songs is filled with such genuine emotion that even the rich, who are used to frivolous luxuries, have to stop and listen. And at that moment, Henry realized Abigail was more than just a project in his bet. Late one evening in Henry's music room, while the two were practicing for their next performance, Abigail suddenly sat down at the old piano in the corner of the room. She gently ran her fingers over the keys, then began to sing a soft ballad. I once had a dream, but the world left it apart. The song has a melancholy tone, like a confession of a lonely soul. Henry sat motionless, feeling something very familiar. Those notes, that melody. He had heard it before, but where? Abigail, he said slowly when she finished. This song, did you write it? She nodded. Yes, I wrote it a long time ago, but never had a chance to perform it. Henry tried to search his memory. He had heard this song before, but when? Where? The familiar feeling made him feel a strange connection to her, a feeling he had never experienced with anyone else. And from that moment on, Abigail was no longer a pawn on his chessboard. At first, Henry only saw Abigail as a project, a challenge to prove that he could turn a nobody into a star. But with each passing day, each moment with her, he realized his feelings were changing. He began to care for her in a way he had never cared for anyone else. He paid attention to her every little habit, the way she smiles when she finds a good tune, the way her eyes light up when she talks about music, and above all, he wanted to protect her. One night, after leaving a music event, Henry noticed that Abigail seemed quieter than usual. Are you okay? He asked as they walked out of the hall. Abigail nodded, but then she sighed softly. Sometimes I feel like everything is happening too fast, like I'm living in a dream that I'm afraid I'll wake up from at any moment. Henry paused, looking her straight in the eyes. This is not a dream, Abigail. You deserve all of this. She smiled, but in Henry's heart, a worry arose. Little did she know that all of this started from a bet. He wanted to tell her the truth, but if he did, would she forgive him? As each day passed, Henry found it harder and harder. He knew he had to tell Abigail about the bet, but he was afraid of losing her. One night, while standing on the balcony of his penthouse, Lucas Grant called him. So how was it, Henry? Lucas's voice was full of mockery. You remember this is just a game, right? Henry was silent for a long moment, then replied, Yes, just a game. But even he himself did not believe what he had just said, because when he looked at Abigail, he no longer saw a project. He saw only a girl he didn't want to lose. 4 months after Abigail entered Henry's world, her life changed completely. She's no longer the street girl singing. Now she's a rising star in the music industry, with a debut hit that just hit the Billboard charts. With Henry's help, she got a major label recording contract, was invited to perform on television shows, and had thousands of fans on social media. But Henry didn't feel as happy as he thought he would, because the closer he got to winning the bet, the more afraid he was of losing her. As each day passed, Abigail progressed further. Music producers wanted to work with her. Newspapers began writing about her as a new phenomenon. Crowds cheered her name every time she appeared in public. For the first time in her life, Abigail felt like she was touching her dream, and Henry was always by her side. But what Abigail didn't know was that she didn't have this on her own in the first place. That night, Henry takes Abigail to a lavish high society party filled with investors, famous artists, and influential figures in the music industry. Abigail was radiant in a red silk dress, looking no less than a goddess on stage. Henry couldn't take his eyes off her. She has changed so much from the girl he first met, but her eyes were still the same as the first day. She still carried within her a pure love for music, not fame or money, and that made Henry feel even more guilty. While getting some wine, Abigail accidentally walked past a group of men chatting. One of them is Lucas Grant, Henry's best friend. Lucas's voice rang out, full of mockery. "You win, Henry." "Who would have thought that little busker would become a star?" Another laughed. "Yeah, just a good backer's enough. It's an easy bet." Abigail stopped. Her heart stopped beating. A bet? She couldn't believe what she just heard. Lucas continued, completely unaware that Abigail was listening. "I have to admit, you did a good job on this one, Henry. I thought it was impossible at first, but it seems you have a knack for turning a nobody into a star." Abigail clenched her glass of wine in her hand, feeling like the world was falling apart. She didn't remember how she got to Henry. All she knew was that when she saw him standing there, his eyes full of affection looking at her, the anger inside her flared up. "Henry." Her voice trembled, but not with the love it had felt before. Henry turned around, smiling, but when he saw her eyes, that smile disappeared. "Abigail, what's wrong?" She threw the wine glass to the ground. The sound of broken glass echoed throughout the room. "So, I'm just your gamble?" The whole room went silent. Everyone turned to look at them. Henry was stunned. "Abigail, let me explain." She shook her head, eyes red. "No need, I've heard enough." He stepped closer to her, but she stepped back. "You think I only helped you because of the bet?" Henry's voice was full of pain. She smiled bitterly. "Isn't that right? Why did you approach me in the first place?" Henry clenched his fists. "Abigail, I admit, it was because of the bet at first. But now, everything has changed. She interrupted him. "You really love me?" "Don't lie, Henry. You don't know what love is." Those words were like a knife stabbing straight into Henry's heart. He had never felt so helpless. He can control everything in the world, can manipulate the market, can turn a person into a star, but he could not control Abigail's heart. Abigail turned and walked away, never looking back. Henry wanted to run after her, wanted to pull her back, wanted to beg her for forgiveness, but he knew, right now, no words could erase the betrayal. Abigail trusted him, thinking that Henry was the one who saw her talent when the rest of the world turned its back. But now, she realizes that it was all just a game for the rich. Her eyes stung, but she wouldn't allow herself to cry, because crying means she still loves him. The next morning, Abigail disappeared. No text, no goodbye. Henry was used to having everything at his fingertips, but now he felt like he had just lost the most important thing in his life, and there was nothing he could do to hold on. He went to the apartment he had rented for her. Empty. All the clothes, shoes, expensive makeup, everything he had ever given her was left behind. On the table there was only a small piece of paper with just a few handwritten words. "I don't need these things. I will go my own way." Henry clenched the paper, feeling an unprecedented pain fill his chest. I can't believe it. She really left him. When Henry tried to contact him, his phone number was blocked. He tried going to the studio where she used to work, but the manager said that Abigail had canceled the contract and left without saying a word. He looked for TV shows where she was invited to perform. She also canceled all. She wanted to disappear from his world. She rejected everything he gave her, be it fame, career, or money. She didn't need anything from Henry Whitmore anymore. For the first time in his life, Henry felt helpless. He was used to having things his way. Want a company? He bought it. Want a new star? He created her. But now, the only girl he truly wanted was leaving him, and there was nothing he could do to keep her. Work began to feel like a burden. He lost interest in the million-dollar deals. The lavish parties he once loved now left him feeling empty. I have insomnia. He lost focus. He lost Abigail. And that hit him in a way no business failure ever did. One night, Henry drove aimlessly around the city, trying to find some trace of Abigail. As I stopped in front of a small bar on the corner, a familiar melody rang out from inside. It was the song Abigail had sung in the studio. The song had shocked him the first time he heard it. He walked into the bar and sat quietly in a corner. On stage was an old singer playing the guitar. His voice was hoarse but still full of emotion. That melody brings back a distant memory. Many years ago, when Henry was just a young man. For the first time in his life, he escaped from his father's business world. I once had a dream that was a dream about music. And on that fateful night, he heard a special voice singing through the window of this bar. A young girl stood on stage, her eyes sparkling in the lights, singing that song with all her heart. She inspired him, made him believe in something bigger than money. But then, Henry let that dream die, buried it under the numbers, contracts, and cold negotiations of the business world. I forgot that song. Until I met Abigail again. The moment she started singing, all the forgotten memories suddenly rose up, like a wave crashing onto the shore, sweeping away all the pride and shell he had built up over the years. The girl that year was her. Henry couldn't believe it. He had seen her before, had listened to her singing with a pure heart, untainted by money and power. And now, when he loved her with all his sincerity, he was the one who caused her the most pain. Abigail was gone, but Henry knew, this time he couldn't let her go again. Not this time. Time passed, and then Abigail suddenly reappeared, the first big concert of her career. The Nashville stage lit up, thousands of fans cheered, waiting for the voice that touched their hearts. Abigail stood there, the spotlight shining on her. She had achieved her dream, had made it to the top without anyone else. But why? Is her heart still empty? She looked down at the stands amidst the sea of enthusiastic people. And then she saw him. No VIP seating, no bodyguards around. There was only one man standing silently in the crowd, his eyes no longer filled with arrogance or power, only regret, only pain at seeing the girl he loved shine without him by her side. And as Abigail began to sing, Henry closed his eyes. That melody is still the same as the first day I heard it. But this time, he didn't let her disappear. Abigail finished her performance. She bowed her head to thank the audience and was about to leave the stage when Henry stepped up. The whole room went silent. Henry held the microphone. His voice was low but full of emotion. The first time I heard this song, I didn't know your name, but the melody has haunted me for years. I lost you once, and I don't want to lose you again. Abigail stood still. Thousands of spectators also held their breath, waiting for the next moment. Henry continued, I hurt you. No amount of sorry can ever take that away, but I'm not here to ask for forgiveness. I'm here because I love you, and if you don't want to see me anymore, I'll leave. But I want you to know that my love is not a game. And then Henry did something no one expected. In front of thousands of people, he announced that he was giving up all his shares in the entertainment company that built Abigail's career. I don't want you to think that I have any power over your path. From now on, your career belongs only to you. Abigail was stunned. The whole room exploded with murmurs and amazement. A billionaire gives up his power just because of a woman? Abigail looked at Henry for a long time. She remembers everything. The times he protected her, the times he cared about her not as a project, but as a person. She looked into his eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she saw that Henry had truly changed. She said nothing, But when she reached out to him, Henry understood. It's not instant forgiveness, but it is an opportunity, a chance for them to continue writing their story. Not like a bet, not like a game, but like two people who found each other through a song from the past. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you like this story, don't forget to like to support the channel and subscribe so you don't miss any stories.